Eden Koz here with Just Be, and we are about to take a spiritual boom. We are at an unprecedented time in human history where we are transitioning from 3D to 5D within the great spiritual awakening. This video and audio podcast is the place for you to find your truth beyond politics, your sovereignty, your voice. Let's kick up your vibration now. By the way, each episode ends with the Just Be practice to do just that. And as we begin the show, just to know a little bit more about me, I'm a soul realignment specialist, meditation master, and dimensional healer. Learn more, and there's merch also at EdenJustBe.com. Let's get this party started. Now calm down a little bit. Maybe not. Eden, Just Be Spiritual Boom in association with the wonderful, powerful, truthful Grassroots Warrior Network. Welcome, Jerneja Tomsic. Please tell me I said that correctly?
You said that correctly. Thank you, Eden, and thank you for the invitation.
Oh my God, you are so welcome. You are a PhD and you have a PhD in molecular biology, living currently in California. And I always say this, no telling where we're going to go, but we are maybe going to talk about PCR tests. And most of you know that they are not any kind of diagnostic tool for COVID. Yet Jerneja is going to potentially give us just more stuff to look at. And some of you guys may, like, that is not typically my shtick. Like when I find out that something is not good, I go, okay, I don't need to know the details, but I just know. And you got all the details and they're fascinating. So for those of you who really enjoy that, we potentially are going to go into it. Also want to hear of more of your expertise talking about viruses. And I love this quote that I watched on a fear podcast of yours. Fear is the real virus. DNA lies, programming, straw man, Reiki, Roman Catholic Church, veganism, the matrix. Who knows where we're going to go? Before we start, I have to express to you guys, I am today feeling so good. And I love that we're about to start in a moment. Like God's source is just all around, and I'm projecting it out through the show. And this is what the Great Awakening is. I mean, it's seeing all the lies and all the fear, but then also breaking through all of that and just being love and feeling we are all moving towards the good stuff. And I'm here to go, oh my God, it feels so good. And y'all know from other shows that I'm in a romantic, divine love relationship. So I'm feeling that love today and feeling so freaking feminine and glowing with that. And oh gosh, let's put it out there. Very sexual, which is really interesting. I might, Jerneja, if I have the guts, I might do a show on that. Because I've done 2 in the past 2 months, just talking about this relationship and more and everything. So that's really neat. And then I just want to add this because I think it's really, really neat. I exercise a good bit. I think that exercising and nutrition is really big in all this as well. So I started this CrossFit class a while back, and I've done CrossFit classes before where they, it's like they have a megaphone. You need to lift this amount of weight. This one is beautiful because it's go at your own pace, and it's still very difficult. And I am having physical changes in my body, which is so nice because I've exercised a lot and for a long time. So it's so nice, like to feel the strength that I haven't felt in a long time. So I'm just beaming. I'm beaming with everything. Even as we talk about in a moment, just some stuff that is not so great. It's all okay. May I read your bio now?
Yes.
Is that good? Yeah, let's get to it.
Make it short because it's not important.
Okay, I will make it mine. Jerneja was born in Slovenia and got her bachelor's degree in molecular biology in Italy. And I was just in Italy for the first time a couple weeks ago. She later got her PhD in molecular biology at the same university. In February 2005, she moved to the Department of Microbiology at the Ohio State University, and I'm in Ohio, as a postdoctoral fellow where she did research on RNA and bacteria. In 2008, she started working in a human genetics laboratory studying genetic predisposition to colon cancer and thyroid cancers. Since 2017, she has been working at a major cancer center in Southern California as a staff scientist, working on genetic predisposition to breast cancer. Interesting. Jerneja chose the vegan path in May 2013 because of her friend Bambi, a young Jersey steer she helped rescue, who I think just recently passed away.
Yes, actually 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
In 21. Yeah.
Okay. In 2018, she completed plant-based nutrition certification at T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies and E. Cornell. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, it's an E university.
Okay.
Cornell, so.
Got it. Okay. My first question typically is, how and when did you first start seeing that we are in a matrix, this great awakening, the lies? Yeah, tell us your story. And go ahead and show us your shirt. I don't know if I'm going to use that in the screen capture because I want to see your face. And knowing that we are on community radio, we the people are, think of the word pee off. Peed off. All right. Yes. Okay. So tell us how this all came to be, especially given your scientific background.
Yeah. Given my scientific background, I was completely on the other side, right? I mean, I was confused. Let's start there. I was confused when we came to the US in 2005, right? Yeah. Let's just talk about 2005, because who was in charge in 2005? 2004, it was under Bush, right?
Yeah.
So, and we were then all expecting, Bush horrible, Republicans horrible, and we know that university is captured. University is completely captured. So we were all waiting for Obama, and then who knows. And I was lost all the way into 2020. My husband slowly awakened because he's kind of a gun nut. Not that he goes shooting like everywhere, but he is aware of what Second Amendment means.
Okay.
So he's been looking at me sideways. We've known each other since 1990. So as I was promoting no guns and all of that, he was looking at me like, when is this woman gonna wake up? Because I was completely like, guns are bad. But then 2020 hit and I'm like, we need guns to defend ourselves from the government. Not to, like what I believed was, we'll be killing neighbors. No.
Mm-hmm.
That's why things didn't go sour in Seattle. I learned from somebody back at the beginning of COVID, because he told me, Jerneja, you know why there was the COVID epicenter in New York City? They tried to make another one in Seattle and it didn't happen. He goes, you know why? There are so many guns around, not in Seattle like city, but around. They wouldn't try to mess with patriots. I'm like, that was my aha moment about Second Amendment, guns, and all of that.
Okay, so the universities being programmed, and you were a part of all that. So was it, and your husband, it sounds like gently waiting for you and hoping you would open, patiently waiting. What, and I know you talked about too that you one of the things in coming to the States was that the United States, is a wealthy country, and then you were doing some stuff at a food bank or what? Yeah, tell me about that.
Yes, so that was the thing. So when in 2008 we started working at Cancer Center, my husband was working 7 days a week. Okay. So I decided I needed something to do, and somehow I ended up volunteering at the food pantry. An amazing church-run food pantry in Columbus, Ohio, one zip code east from the Ohio State University. Mm-hmm. So I was there every Saturday. The amount of homeless and low-income families that we were feeding was crazy high. Yeah. So things started not matching up. I'm like, okay, we are right next to the Ohio State University. everybody's rich and pretending to be rich and whatever, the richest country in the world, and we are feeding so many homeless and low income. So something was off. Something was off. Again, I would still blame it on the wrong thing. I would still blame it like on capitalism, not really being aware of the big picture, because there is the big picture to the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
With the deep state, and then we go even deeper than that, or higher, bigger perspective. And then I started volunteering for a shelter. So that's where I met Bambi. I actually rescued Bambi, the little 4-month-old steer. So that was another thing. So many animals that are abused. Again, the richest country in the world, and so much is wrong, right? And at the university, nobody really cared. They were living in their little bubble. I heard from my coworker who goes, Jerneja, there are people at Ohio State who they're convinced that there is no homelessness in Columbus, Ohio. And he told them, they were at lunch together, and he told them, so what is Jerneja doing every Saturday morning if there is no homeless? Is she just, because he was aware that I was out there, like hours, and it would be, rain or shine, right? It didn't matter. I was at that food pantry. We were talking to people. So he's like, you guys are completely wrong, because they were driving from their little suburb to the university. And of course, homeless were not there. Homeless were on the east side. Let's say in Columbus, it's on the east side, right? So just because they didn't see them, they were like, oh, there is no problems. We are all good here. So that was slowly, little awakening. Then, of course, my first big shift was when I decided that all sentient beings deserve respect. I mean, because I was a non-even vegetarian when I rescued that cow. I was everything eating, rescuing that cow. And then we had a relationship. I mean, I was there every week talking to him, but I noticed there was still a wall, because there was still a wall put up by me, because I was not allowing myself to really look at him in the way, like connect with him, because when I was going home, I was eating his, cousins and chicken, whatever. So once that was gone, we had an amazing several years. And when I moved to California, and then I went back every year, he would come running from the other side of the pasture when I would call, in the middle of the summer. With the heat, the other steer was under the shade. He didn't know me. He was like under the shade, like, who the heck is screaming over there? And he came running, and he really came running. So that's just how it was. So I think the first awakening was, you know what, we're kind of all the same. We're sharing this planet. Somebody created us. At that point, I also started creation, evolution, the whole Darwin and evolution and what I learned in school started being questioned by me at some point.
So when you let that wall down and decided you were going to stop eating meat, was it like you noticed a switch with him, like a more soul level connection with Bambi?
Yes. Yeah. It was really, it was the feeling, really just, I could just be standing there and looking at him, and we were communicating.
Man, just to take a quick pause, I'm feeling, because I am all in love today. I'm feeling, even though Bambi's crossed over, such a love coming your way. I feel like I need to share that. And even you talking about him, is it him?
Yeah.
At this moment, well, is that a steer? No about that. There's such love, and there's such love that he's showing kind of a voice for you, like you using your voice, and that was one of the reasons he showed up for you. Love that.
Yes.
And when you also talked about being in, okay, so we're going to go back and forth for a minute, being in the vegan community and then starting to use your voice, that was a very that it didn't quite work out so well. Can you talk a little bit about that too?
Are we talking about like in 2020 when things started?
Maybe these all parallel together because I think didn't the vegan community also kind of go, "Hey, we're gonna not talk to you anymore, and we're gonna."
That's when
Okay.
it happened. That's when it happened. So before everybody was loving me, I mean, I was volunteering at another, like here in California, at another animal shelter. I can say I was useful. I mean, I was told, oh, we're really happy to have you because
Yeah.
I'm just able to do things. I learned from my dad a lot of, I mean, we were putting fence in. I have no problem moving posts and sticking them in the ground and whatever. So a lot of volunteers come, they do some photo shoot with animals and then they go. But I was there like with others. I mean, of course, not alone, but I was kind of there. And then when I started being vocal, especially in July, I still remember in July 2020, when I started being vocal about the candidate, President Trump, then I was blocked by the director. She didn't want to see me anymore, and so on and so forth. But before that, when I started being vocal on my page about vaccines,
Okay. Is this your Rumble channel?
yes, no, even before,
Even before that. Okay.
before I had my Rumble channel, I've been very active on Facebook.
Okay.
So on my Facebook page, not on the page of the program. So there was a vegan program that I was leading here in Pasadena, where I live. And pretty much what happened, just because I was starting to question vaccines
Yeah.
on my Facebook page, I got a very lovely quote unquote letter from the main people that started the program that then were expanding it to other cities, pretty much telling me, sorry, we are removing you as the person. They actually, I mean, the page was still there for the program in my city, but I was not among the organizers anymore. I mean, fun times, completely fun times. And there was just an email, no phone call with
Nothing direct.
people, no phone call from people that actually I treated them very well. When we were running this program, they came over, I hosted them. I mean, it was like, yeah, everything happens for a reason. In the meantime, I did reconnect with the creator. Probably that was like in May 2020, when I realized that he never abandoned me, although I kind of walked away over time. So at that point, I'm like, I guess everything's happening for a reason. So
So when you reconnected to God or to Source, what happened? Were you just like sleeping one night and that came to you, or yeah, talk about that a little bit because it's so important right now.
I don't even know. I think it was not sleeping. It was
Okay.
really watching a couple of, how it happened. I mean, there were a few points, and
Yeah.
then all comes together. One was I was really talking to my coworker, and it came to me. So if we were created, because still I was raised Roman Catholic, right? So I still go, okay, let's say we were created. So let's hypothesize, right? But as a scientist, if we were created, why would we need something, vaccine, that was invented by humans to make us healthy? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, I put it maybe even a little bit different, but within me, I'm like, I know what I'm talking about makes sense, and we were created. It's God that's guiding us, and that pretty much is having our back. But then again, when we follow what he wants us to do, kind of. So if we go our own way, and he's still there because he prevented me from getting into so much trouble.
Explain.
I know that he put
Explain.
my husband on my path back in 1990.
Yeah.
Without him, I would have been who knows where. I mean, not like, not doing drugs or anything like that, but I would have done some stupid things, most probably. So at some point,
Okay, so what do you mean? Like gotten the vaccines, gotten boosters, gone off in a
down there, yes, but I would be lost. So this would be still, I would be staying in Slovenia.
Okay.
Slovenia is still under communist rule, although not officially, but unofficially it is. If I went to university in Slovenia, I probably would have fallen into the whole communist trap, although at home I was not raised like that.
Yeah.
And once you fall in that trap, I mean, it was hard to get out of it because I was promoting socialist Bernie Sanders back in February 2020. So going from Bernie Sanders in February 2020 to promoting Trump in July 2020. So that was a lot happened over those 3-4 months. So,
man, okay. And let me go and mention Jerneja, we talked about this a little bit. There's a little bit of a reverb in her mic. It's not as it's still there, just minimally. So if you're listening to this audibly, just hang in there because it's worth it. And I notice it a lot because my headphones are on, so hopefully it's not too strong. Man, okay? Let me take all of this in. So when you moved from Slovenia to the States, what was your first thought?
I actually moved from Italy to the States.
To Italy. Okay. So
I moved from Slovenia to Italy.
Okay. What was that like?
I mean, I was 19. So
okay.
Slovenia to Italy, it was like, and it's Europe, and I was young and I was in love and we went to college. But then moving to the States. So one thing that I noticed looking back, we didn't stand our ground when we noticed how everybody in our research lab was just following. So when we do what's called experiments, in the lab, scientists do all sorts of experiments, they mix things. So you have like a recipe, right? You follow, we call it a protocol, but would be like a recipe. So you follow a recipe with steps, how to do certain things. So what was so interesting, and I really noticed it then in 2020, looking back. I'm like, oh yeah, I noticed it back then, but didn't know exactly what it means. So we were not undergrads. We already had a PhD, so a lot of experience in research labs. We came to this lab where we were doing some stuff that was very similar compared to what we were doing in Italy.
Yeah.
But we were not supposed to bring our way of doing things into the lab. So no, here we have this protocol, here we have this recipe, you have to do it this way. If one step says you need to turn around 3 times, otherwise it won't work, you need to turn around 3 times. I mean, I'm a little bit exaggerating, but we come to the point of, let's say, a lot of times we have some sort of an incubation in a 37 degrees Celsius incubator. And I know that 5 minutes, it's more than long enough, but no, they told me it has to be 15. I mean, an overkill, right? So these people were not at all flexible, and it was like this.
Okay, so you weren't allowed essentially to bring your own wisdom or your own thoughts into play.
Completely. And everybody, I mean, the professor didn't like it, but then everybody was really just following and not thinking what they were doing.
Okay.
And they pretty much followed in 2020, put the mask on, believed Anthony Fauci, and so on and so forth. So this is where it all comes from. This is where in sciences, this is where it all comes from. We've been trained to just follow. And I mean, they killed our intuition back in the day because you are not supposed to go off of your intuition. You're supposed to go off of, sciencey research papers that are peer reviewed and all of that. But if my gut tells me something else, no, you need to go with, whatever authorities are saying because they've done research and stuff. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works.
Oh my gosh. Well, knowing that there's programming and everything, but I love having you on the show also to talk about the programming that's in science. I mean, we all know that, again, intuition, there's so much that I do, let's say, that science cannot prove but it just is. I mean, and there's so much more to this world and to humanity. And all right, so I love one show that you were on too that talked about how stubborn you are. I think that has proven very valuable. Would you not agree?
At this point, yes, I was worried. I mean, for the longest time, I was kind of, oh, this whole stubbornness, I don't know where it's going to take me, but looks like it's worked out.
Well, and so many people that I meet in this, who are seeking the truth, like you have to be willing to stand out because same thing happened to me, just like you. I was, blocked out of these groups and to be able to handle that, which is one of the reasons we all just follow in line. We just want to please people and be good and be happy. It's hard stuff, yet it makes you so strong and so good. How strong are you at this point?
I cannot say that nothing can break me, but I'm so close. I'm so close. I mean, so I will probably share a bit about fear at the end because I see so many people are still falling into the fear, like
Yeah.
from different angles and from mainstream media and alternative media. But my shift happened when I really started standing up for myself, really happened when we were forced. I mean, they were trying to force us to take the flu vaccine at the end of 2020. So before even COVID vaccine was out,
Yeah.
we got kind of an ultimatum without. I've always refused flu vaccine by signing philosophical exemption. That was allowed. You just sign, I have philosophical reasons, didn't have to be religious or anything. Just, as long as you sign something, they were fine with it. That year, October 2020, they said there is no exemption, none, no religious, no nothing. You will lose your job. There was nothing. There was nothing.
That's against the law. Okay.
This is California, so you know what I mean.
Uh-huh.
So, but we never took flu vaccine. I mean, never, ever. We don't see the point in taking flu vaccine. So I still remember I was sitting exactly in this spot and I was looking, from here, I see directly into the kitchen and my husband was in the kitchen and I'm like, I just got this email saying so-and-so we lose our job if we don't get flu vaccine. And I go, what do we do? Do we go to the end? I mean, and see what happens? Because we don't have kids, right? So one thing is not having kids, it's just the two of us. It's easier to take, like, let's call it crazy decisions. Like at that moment, it looked like crazy because we just moved here in 2016. We were planning on staying here for a while. And then in 2020, we were like, if we have to move, we're going to move. So it was not a plan because moving is a pain, right? And where would we move?
Yeah. Okay. And you might have said, is your husband's a molecular biologist as well?
Yeah.
Okay. And y'all were working together at the same place, essentially?
At the same institution. Yeah.
Okay. So what happened?
So as he said that, and I said, okay, so then do this. I can tell you, I felt a physical click. Something clicked, like a switch. And at that point, I'm like, we just gonna go. And I became a pain in the butt. Sorry, my language. I actually talked to a human resources guy because I was starting to complain that we don't have any exemption, like at our disposition, right? Is that the word? So we cannot. So, but I would still refuse. So
can I ask you, like in Ohio, there are 3 exemptions that are allowed: medical, philosophical, conscientious, and what's the other one? I think the one that you use.
Religious.
Religious. Okay, so there are 3 that are allowed. Are there any allowed in the state of California?
They were.
Okay.
Before 2020, they were.
Okay, so they took all of those away.
At that point, they took all of those away, even for flu vaccine, right?
Oh my God. Okay, let me sit with that. Okay, please continue. Holy smokes.
So when I talked to the human resources guy, I wanted to talk to him at least via Zoom, like visual, but no, he didn't even. No, it was a phone call, and his last name is from former Yugoslavia. I could tell that. I mean, his last name was reminding me of because I was born, yes, in Slovenia, but when it was still Yugoslavia. So,
okay.
And I imagine that his parents moved to the US exactly because of the same problems we were all having, the socialism and communism and all of that. So
Okay.
what I actually said to him, because I'm like, I'm not willing to take the vaccine, and you are not giving me any option, like no exemption, no nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I did say, are you aware that this is pretty much socialist? I mean, I went all out. He's still not my fan, of course. I mean, he's still there. Not a huge fan of mine. He wanted to reprimand me about something else, but my boss didn't allow it. So I'm also lucky. I have a person above me who is willing to take a little bit of,
Being
they're
poked.
shooting at her, right?
Okay.
Because of her staff scientist being so rebellious. So she is willing to say, if Jerneja doesn't agree with it, then that's her thing. A lot of other supervisors would insist and push you into complying.
Yeah.
While she was like, if Jerneja goes like that, I don't understand why, because she took all of the vaccines. Like later on when we went with COVID, she doesn't understand exactly why I didn't, but she's like, we just respect that, right? So, yeah, but so my first thing was really when I stood up against the flu vaccine.
Okay,
and
so
know what
they said you didn't. No, what?
You know what happened at the end?
What?
Nothing. In March, so we kept getting emails. They said we needed it by January 4th. They extended the deadline until February 8th. Then they extended the deadline for another week until February 15th. At some point in March, we got an email. You have a little bit of a black mark in your human resources file, but you still have a job. I'm like, and people were running out and vaccinating in October because they were threatened that they're going to lose their job. And I understand moms and dads with children. I understand they were like, one thing that I cannot do is lose the job.
Yeah.
Right. So I understand. And it really upsets me. It really upsets me how they got a lot of people just because they cannot afford to even try and stand. Because if everybody stood up, there were a lot of people I was hearing in like lower position jobs.
Yeah.
Let's say we have kind of the maintenance people and we have the delivery. So I was hearing from my delivery guy, he's like, Jerneja, in my department, most people don't want to take it. But there they were. And he took the COVID, although I told him everything about it. He took the COVID also. I mean, I'm like, just put religious exemption in. You are Christian, so I mean, just put it in. You wouldn't be lying. No, some people were, I don't know, lazy. I don't know what was going on.
Okay, so with the flu vaccine, let's say you got away with it, even though that's not. So was it equally as strong with the COVID vaccine?
For COVID, we had religious exemption.
Okay. Whoa. Why?
They put it back. And again, some people chose not to, like in other places, they preferred to just lose their job, not to even put religious exemption in.
Mm-hmm.
I was guided a little bit by my husband, but then I think I was guided to keep my job because I can affect more people if I have my job.
Mm-hmm.
Because first, if I didn't have my job, I would be looking for a new job. I would be struggling in this way with having my job. I was able to focus on educating others, even at work. I'm talking to people at work. The only person, of course, is my direct boss, who's completely lost, unfortunately. But a lot of other coworkers have been listening to me. One of my coworkers actually listened to one of my interviews on PCR, and she goes, Jerneja, I was nodding all the way back home. Wow. And she had to say sorry to her dad because he was telling her this was all a scam in 2020, but she was so scared. She was pregnant. Her baby was
Oh my
born in
gosh.
May 2020. So she completely was pushing everybody to get the vaccine because of the fear, just the
Yeah.
fear. So yeah, in 23, I think she came back and she's like, yeah, I had to say sorry to my dad because looks like he knew. He knew more, but he just couldn't convey to her because she's the scientist and he's not. He's just some sort of a computer guy, still working at a major hospital. So why he knew something was off?
Wow.
He is working in like more like computer things. I don't know exactly what his role is, but what he was able to see was how much money was coming in during COVID. So he was aware that something was off. So that's why he was trying to kind of explain to her, but she just didn't listen. So
Oh God. So on some he was on the front lines in a way. Like he just saw
yes,
the
yes,
and
he
with that, oh yeah, go ahead.
yeah he was unaware how deep it all is.
Right.
Now he fell back into working hard, but now I think he's realizing, wait a minute, this is not the main goal of being on this earth. I mean, working, yes, fine, but he was working so hard that he didn't have time to eat. He lost weight and stuff. So
Okay.
his daughter brought him back to really understand what's priority and so on and so forth. So he's aware of some things, he's still unaware of other things, but I think slowly. And he's my year. He's actually my we were born in the same year, the best year anyway, over in the 70s. So
Okay. So, and with for I'm sure most people watching the show know that hospitals were given anything they could diagnose with COVID, they were given money for that. So, even if someone died from heart disease, it was COVID, or pneumonia, it was COVID. Like everything was COVID. And I've had many friends that also went, it was not COVID when so and so passed away, or yeah, it's just all in that. Well, let's also, when you, can we go ahead into the fear is the real virus and the psychological feeling of, I've got to do this. Otherwise, this is going to happen to me. This is going to happen because I'm all about mindset and that as well. Or do you want to wait on that?
so I want to go into that like at the end.
Okay.
Because I really think the most important thing right now is for people to understand. So what I suggest to everybody, whenever you hear something that puts you in fear, like somebody goes, oh, this horrible thing is happening. Ignore, it can be happening and it can be horrible, but don't fall into the trap being all like in fear, because it's gonna just lead you in a completely wrong way. So whenever I hear something like, oh, this horrible here, horrible there, from mainstream, I mean, I don't listen to mainstream, but even from alternative, like different Rumble channels, whenever they go in the fear, I'm like, sorry, unsubscribe, unfollow, turn off, because once you really understand that everything is based on, I mean, they're leading us via fear-based, whatever, like we're on a leash pretty much.
Yeah. And that's why I'm very clear on this show that none of that. And I do let me ask you real quick about Trump. So I've been doing this podcast now 3.5 years. So a couple shows ago, I did the show on my own, just basically to keep clarifying this is what the show is about and what I've learned and how things, and also when I have a guest on that disagrees with kind of my main tenets, I will politely say, hey, this is my view on it, because I also see the show, I'm kind of a leader and everything. So I need to stand my ground. So I've had several people on the show that disagree with Trump and do not think I expressed that in my life right now, if I didn't believe he was good, that it would almost be like, why am I here? Like, and he's not the savior. He's not going to save everybody. But for me, the positivity and the beauty of this world, he to me is a part of all this. And I just, because I've had people on the show too that my guys told me this, or I talked to Galactic and they disagree. But I'm also thinking, with all these dimensions that we have going on, that if you believe he's not good, that could be your reality as well. So I'm not separating any of that as well. So I understand that you feel good about Trump. Can you express a little bit about that from your perspective?
I do. So my thing was so I hated him like everybody else, pretty much, like, pretty much especially in animal rescue community, vegan community in California, whatever, everybody's like hating him, right? So when 2020, the whole crazy nonsense COVID started, somebody goes, Jerneja, but listen to his White House press conferences. Like, listen to him directly when he was saying things rather than, from some secondhand Rachel Maddow or whoever, right? So I'm like, okay, let me do this. And my parents have been telling me for years, Jerneja, Trump is doing this and Trump is doing that. And I was like, what do you guys know? You are over there in Slovenia. You don't understand. Okay. Because they realized early on, everybody in Slovenia is against Trump, like the media, right? So Melania is from Slovenia.
That's right.
So if a citizen of your little country, we are 2 million people. We have tons of people in Cleveland. I mean, that's a whole separate thing. But in Slovenia, we are 2 million people. And one of our citizens becomes the first lady of the freaking United States of America, not of some, whatever.
Tiny little city in
Kazakhstan or something. Yeah. No. The first lady of the United States of America. Will you say something? Like, will you say something good? Like the media. I'm talking about the media, like the news, whatever. Will you say something good? No, it was always negative. So this is when my parents got on the whole, wait a minute, if the media is so negative, so let's see, they didn't know exactly. I mean, they're still not exactly clear what's going on, because a lot of stuff I cannot share with them that's like in English, because they don't speak. I mean, they understand a little bit, but it's hard. I cannot share, some videos that I would love to share with them. But they were telling me, like, stop and listen to Trump. So going back, so I started listening to his press conferences. And I don't remember at what point. So then I realized, okay, so yeah, the media is lying because he said this, but then the media reported it like that. So yeah, there's something wrong. Then at some point early on, I listened to his inauguration speech, the 2017 inauguration speech. And that was like, if he is standing up, I'm going to stand up also. I didn't even realize. So first, I didn't realize that I don't have Secret Service protecting me, right? I mean, that's on the 3D material level.
Yeah.
But later on, I realized, like, my mom was freaking out. Of course, parents, right? My mom was freaking out. You cannot be talking about PCR and, exposing, because you'll get whatever killed or who knows what, right?
Right.
But later on, I actually discovered when you're speaking truth, you are protected, not by Secret Service. I call him all the way upstairs.
The main Secret Service.
Pretty much. So at that point, so what Trump gave me was this kick in the butt, just do your thing. This, I'm speaking the truth. I'm like on my end, like he was like, whatever. And the deep state, I mean, that inauguration speech, I listened to it a few more times. And I was like, how did the people that were there feel? I wish I could go back and be there in person. Because, I mean, the energy that was there on that day.
Girl, I have to put that into, I never listened, like politics was always like, off to the side. I've watched hours of stuff that I would never have watched before. And watching Trump in action, there was one video I watched recently of him oh God, I think the basketball team that just won again. I'm not into sports at all, but they won some national championship, and he had them come to the White House, and he was like all the names of everyone that he knew and how he just personally just handshook and talked to press and all stated their names. It was so personal. And these are just, there's so many instances of that. When you really start watching yourself, you will be amazed at how kind this man is.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You mentioned, if I may, you mentioned basketball team, but there was LA Dodgers.
Okay.
There was LA Dodgers also. And what is so weird, everybody around me at work is into LA Dodgers. Yeah. They talk about them like 24/7, during the season 24/7, off season only, 23 or 22 hours a day. You know what I mean? Like they tune down a little bit.
Live and breathe.
When they were invited to the White House, there was pretty much not a beep. What I did, I'm a horrible person. What I did, I found a Guardian article where he was praising Ohtani. Ohtani is the superstar Japanese, what is he, whatever role he has, but he is like amazing. He is why they won whatever, the World Series, right?
Okay.
I mean, he shook hands and told him, oh, you not only look beautiful like Hollywood, you're also good, like the compliments, and it felt very genuine and very, like, not fake, right? So when you listen to it, it's like, you cannot stop and say, wait a minute, the media is saying this, and here I see a completely different person. So I printed out the article from The Guardian, 2 pages, with him shaking hands with Ohtani. The articles usually in our break room stay up forever. Like that one was gone within a couple of days.
And it's a freaking Guardian too, which is a part of all of this as well.
And it's LA Dodgers.
Okay.
So I was thinking it would stay up but there you go. I mean, people are so insanely stuck in their worldview. One thing that I can say, since everything is connected, right? Everything. Yeah. So once you start unraveling one thing, it all just tumbles down.
Yes.
And if you are not willing to accept that your PhD doesn't mean anything, then, I mean, it means I'm able to look at research papers in the way that you are not able to. And I can tear them down in the way that maybe you're like, I don't even know where to start. So it's meaningful in that way, right? Because I've been trained to do certain things, but now I'm this very important molecular biologist, and I don't go around saying that anymore, because most people are like, Jerneja, it just tells me that you've been very much indoctrinated. And I'm like, yeah, I know, because I had to undo everything.
Okay, let me add to that. So when someone asks me what I do, like a good way to describe it is therapy on drugs. But I'm like, let me explain that I am not a Western therapist. And actually, I feel, these are my opinions, that you don't want me to be, because I would pull out a textbook and diagnose you with this and say you have this. And part of it is I work with God. I work with my intuition. I hear things. Like I've had many folks that have come to me who've done therapy for years and it doesn't work. And they come to me in one session, it works, because there is so much more at play at this. And everybody is unique and individual. You may have one, let's say, diagnosis, and someone else has the same diagnosis, but you're completely different in the way it affects you and the way it came to be, and figuring out what the root of all of this is. So I would agree with you. There are so many, and not saying that you worked hard and went to school. And I agreed, like your mindset, being able to disseminate certain things, that would not be my gift. That it definitely shows that you have a tenacity and a strength in certain things, but being able to let that piece of paper go, that's amazing.
I'm lucky. It's never been a big thing because I was raised that way. I mean, my dad, who was an engineer, was never oh, I'm an engineer, so everybody needs to, take their hat off or,
Yeah.
put the red carpet. No, he was the one that was always helping neighbors. He was the one that was organizing water pipe being put in my little village where I lived back in the day. And he was not just the one that was organizing, he was the one with the shovel digging the trenches, right? So once you, and
Just
then
like you.
pretty much, and then
Yeah.
volunteering grounds you, right?
Yeah.
Volunteering like hands in the ground. I'm the one that's famous for washing the horses' water troughs with my hands. Like I don't even use the brush. I'm like, I don't have time to go over to the garage and grab the brush. I mean, it's some algae, whatever. So you wash it.
Right.
And I think that really helps to stay grounded, because if you are really just 24/7 in those university places, in those fancy laboratories, conversing with Nobel Prize winners or people that want to get the Nobel Prize for some medicine invention, then there will be problems. I'm realizing that.
All right. What if we go into showing some of your slides for PCR? Okay, knowing we are pretty much at the hour, and y'all know I usually keep my show around an hour, but I'd like to go a little bit longer.
Yes, so I won't be too long because I've done a lot of these presentations. People can find me in other places, but I just want to point out a few things. One thing is, at some point in the 80s, mid 80s, scientists started changing technology, techniques, how to diagnose, let's say, the diseases that were caused by or viruses or by bacteria. So earlier it was what's called the standard technique, meaning growing cells in what we call broth, and somehow doing analysis that way. And later on, when PCR technology came to be, this was in the mid 80s, that was the main technology that was being used, and then all connected to computers. So what is so interesting is, here I have a picture that's from a virology textbook, where it says more sensitive technologies, including DNA sequencing, have triggered a consideration of Koch's postulates. So what are Koch's postulates? Koch's postulates are postulates that kind of tell us how we need to go about pathogenic, let's say, bacteria or viruses. So let's say if we want to say, oh, this thing is causing the disease. So first we need to isolate that thing from the sick patient, right? From the person that is sick. First we need to isolate that. We need to culture it in this broth thingy. However we do that, it doesn't matter. So, but we need to culture it and have a pure culture of, like, let's say, as you would have the whole field of corn, right? So you want the pure culture of consisting with all of this bacteria or viruses or whatever. Then you would introduce this culture into test subjects, which again usually are animals, because you don't use humans. And then after that, so you would need to observe the same symptoms as they were observed in the initial patient. And then you should be able to re-isolate, because some things were not possible, and already we had the problem with isolation. That's when they said, oh, actually, let's abandon Koch's postulates and let's go to these more sensitive technologies, as if sensitive means something. Let's say they started making stuff up from scratch, pretty much. This is what it is. I mean, once you see it for what it is, this is how I would describe it.
Okay, and Jerneja, can I interrupt you for just a second?
Yeah. Yes.
One thing I saw in another podcast, I want to go ahead and put this in there, that when PCR tests were stated that they were going to help with COVID, you were working with PCR.
Yes.
At the time, anyway.
I've been working with PCR technology, so it's not just, so molecular biologist's tool is PCR.
Okay.
PCR technology, which is, let's just go here, polymerase chain reaction. So in brief, PCR. So this is a technology that's usually used in research labs to do whatever we're doing. Again, I'm not going to go in describing what we're doing, but it's definitely not diagnostic. We are amplifying DNA, so to have more, so we can do this and that and all sorts of different stuff.
Okay, so right off the bat, you were like, how the heck is this going to work? Doesn't make sense.
So that was the thing. So I actually stopped. I paused when I was listening to Dr. Kaufman, Andrew Kaufman, when he was saying PCR technology is used. I was not aware what was used for testing, right? I mean, I don't do diagnostic. I'm not in a diagnostic lab. So I'm like, I don't know how they diagnose diseases. And then he was saying, oh yeah, they use PCR. I'm like, what? No, you cannot use PCR, because what PCR does, PCR amplifies a very, very short sequence, a very short fragment of DNA. When your genome, the whole, like they were claiming that the genome of this virus is 30,000 nucleotides long, but it only amplifies usually something that's around 100 to 200 nucleotides. Nucleotides are, as I say here, building blocks of DNA. And they are G, A, T, and C. They make pairs, G pairs with a C and A pairs with T. This is how you have this double helix. I'm going to throw it out there. The double helix is just a model that was proposed by Watson and Crick in 1953 or 54. It was published in this fancy Nature paper, but they say we propose. I mean, they didn't show any evidence that anything was real. 10 years later, they got the Nobel Prize. So I call that the stamp of approval. So everybody now is assuming that DNA is this double helix made like this. There is no scientific proof, zero. So all of this PCR technology is built on top of a fiction, which is DNA's double helix. So that's way too much for most people, because it's like it's already hard to understand that PCR is not a diagnostic test or tool. And then for me to come in and say that DNA is not even what we were always told it is, but we kind of have to say it. So.
And I love this because I know it's not what it is, and we have so much more that we do not know. It's a beautiful. So thank you. Yeah, keep going.
So PCR is a reaction that is done in cycles. So during this cycle, so each cycle has 3 temperature changes. So at first you have a 95 degrees where this double helix opens. It's called denaturation. Then you have another step that's between, I wrote 56 to 64 degrees Celsius, but more or less in that range, where primers that are very short sequences of these nucleotides being put together, these primers bind to the DNA that's open. And then you have 72 degree step where polymerase, that is an enzyme that will put, like polymerase is the, what's it called? People that put the bricks together, the
bricklayers.
Bricklayers, there you go. So polymerase lays down these bricks, like this GATC in the sequence, so they pair with the opposite strand. So again, I don't want to make it complicated because at the end it's not, but we just want to, I want to point out each cycle is this temperature change. It's not, some people were saying, oh, cycling means, centrifuge, like stuff moving. No, cycling is temperature changes, okay? And so at each and every cycle, what you do, you double the amount of this product. And the product is actually what is between these 2 primers. So you have one primer that is forward, one primer that is reverse. These are the borders of your short fragment that you are amplifying. Let's put it this way. So you have the beginning and the end, they're kind of bordered in by these primers.
Okay, so I'm going to interrupt on this too. So those who can watch these slides, really great. But we also talked about, if you're just listening to this, that you're doing a great job describing things also. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's hard. It's really hard for me, especially, I mean, I've learned over the years, but I've been always doing it with visuals. So trying to describe for people that are not, that are just listening, it's a little hard. But
you're doing great.
So you have all these cycles. They were doing 40, 45 cycles. So what happens, the way it actually works is, for diagnostic tests, they are using real-time PCR. So real-time PCR this adds another primer. This primer is actually between the so-called forward and reverse, and it has a fluorescent, something that, like, it has a little light bulb attached to it. When this primer is annealed to the sequence, the light bulb is not on. But when polymerase goes and adds those bricks, it actually degrades this primer and frees or turns the light bulb on. So what happens, as you are synthesizing this product, you are actually seeing the laser is measuring this light.
Okay.
So at every cycle, you are doubling. So you are actually measuring the amount of light that would correspond to the amount of the product, if that makes sense. Yes, this is like the easy way, rather than like counting them by hand, because you cannot see this stuff, right? Everything is invisible. So you're not like counting them, you're counting them with this indirect method. Okay. So when you have a relatively decent amount of stuff that you are amplifying, you very fast get the amount of product that will go over the PCR, what's called the PCR threshold, which is the threshold where you are in the exponential phase and where you are really able to detect the product. Let's say at the beginning, you are not able to detect anything. It's amplifying, it's getting there, but the laser is just not sensitive enough. Like, the laser cannot see 1 or 2 or 3. It needs to be much more, right?
Okay.
So when you have more product, it happens earlier. When you have less product, it happens later, right? That makes sense. It needs to do more cycles for this light to be strong enough to be detected. Right, so this is an example over here. So let's say when I start with 10 molecules, I need all the way to 20. I just kind of made up these numbers, but let's say I need 20 cycles to have the amount. So let's say 5 million is the range where, like, it's this separation where you detect above 5 million, you detect, below 5 million, you don't detect, right? So you need 20 cycles to be able to detect when you're starting with 10 molecules. When you're starting with 50 molecules, you need way less cycles when the light is already above this threshold. So you actually do it at 17. So what they were doing, they were pushing these cycles up to 40, 45, and even more to really, I mean, they were picking up, nothing in the tube was being picked up, and it was giving the signal. One thing that is also very important to know, and most people don't know it, and most scientists ignore it. Usually when we use this technology for some other experiment that we do, we ignore everything that is above 34 or 35. We don't use it as positive or whatever. We are like, oh, nothing is there, because it lit up so late. It can be all sorts of things that are making it light up. There is these primers that can anneal. I mean, I don't want to be technical, because I want people to really just understand, but just so we are aware, what they were detecting with 45 cycles, nobody knows, not even they know. Not even they know. And usually when I was doing, especially at the beginning, when I was doing my even real-time PCRs, what I would do, let's say, yes, I see the signal at 15 cycles or 20 cycles, but then I take out the product at 40 cycles and I do what's called the sequencing experiment. So I actually want to make sure that what was emitting the light was the product that had the sequence I expected to have. So the DNA had the GATC in a specific, is sequence a good word for you?
Yeah, that
One
makes sense.
after the other? Yeah, makes sense. So
Yeah.
because this region has GATC and so on. That other region maybe has TCGA. So I want to make sure that they are the way they're supposed to be. And very often when you sequence things, when these primers are a little iffy, you will have the signal, but the sequence won't be what you were trying to amplify. So you throw out everything. They were not throwing out anything in this diagnostic test. They don't even know what it was I'm amplifying, if that makes sense.
So, okay, do you have more to show, or are we ready to come back?
One thing that I want to share, so I won't go deep into it, but the whole getting sick. What is getting sick? Getting sick is actually a detox. It's not a problem. It's not something that we need to solve. It's something that we need to let
happen.
Expand, happen. Yes, thank you. Happen and like help it with a lot of sleep, some good food, a lot of drinking, like a lot of water. And that's pretty much what it is, right? Rather than freaking out. This was what they did. I mean, this is China. I just want to show, because everything started with this one patient that showed up at the Central Hospital of Wuhan on the 26th of December 2019, that was experiencing severe respiratory syndrome that included fever, dizziness, and cough. If this is severe respiratory syndrome, then I don't know, I'm the Queen of England, because we've all had fever, dizziness, and cough. I mean, even severe we've had, and nobody was freaking out. So then what they did, rather than even saying, because what can cause these symptoms? These symptoms can be caused by chemical pollution also, or really just by pollution.
Yeah.
No, they immediately started with looking for a virus. So their hypothesis, there was not even, let's look for what caused it. They were, let's look for the virus that caused it. So they completely skipped looking for something else. And then they did this metagenomic sequencing, which is, again, won't go into like explaining the whole thing, but how it's done. It's done through a computer. It's assembling very, very short reads to put this whole viral sequence together. They made it really clear in their methodology that the sample was never completely clean, that there was never just the viral material in there, because they tell us clearly that there were several millions, 32 millions of human reads in this mix. So then they use a computer that aligns these sequences, and they use two different softwares that gave different results. So if you were a sane and like a scientist that really knows what they're doing, you would stop and say, no, it cannot be, because the difference is so huge. One is not even able to construct a final genome that is around 30,000 nucleotides long. One stops at around 11,700. So it's not even able to, this one is for some reason assembling something that is the sequence of the virus that they're looking for. That's a little bit stretched. So this is this is just in addition to what most people are talking about. Most people are talking about how PCR is not a diagnostic tool. We in the no virus community, we go way deeper and say, we've all been lied about viruses. There is no such thing as this spike proteiny round thing that you see under the microscope. I mean, what they saw there, it's all questionable. So there is even, and then eventually we go even further. People are still afraid of bacteria that cause disease. There is bacteria, but there is no bacteria that causes disease. Western medicine has everything completely upside down. It's keeping us in fear.
Yes.
It's keeping us in fear. I listened to your podcast with your friend, the naturopath.
Yeah.
I listened to it yesterday really briefly. I mean, they're keeping us in fear. The shot when you cut yourself, but then even when you spill hot water over yourself, what's the shot?
I know there's a tetanus shot. Is that?
Yeah, the tetanus shot. Yeah,
Okay.
the tetanus shot. That's another huge lie. I mean, and even what I want to point out, even medical doctors should question the whole tetanus shot thing. Why? Because they know that you take the shot and your body, if we go with the mainstream virology, whatever, immunology, there are 2 weeks for your body to build the response. So it's definitely not working immediately. So why would they give it to you like that when, so if something was real, what they're selling about tetanus, you would be dead before the shot really works. So, but we are kept in fear. I mean, we are just kept in so much fear. And that's why I'm saying fear is so, I mean, understanding that and fighting fear is so important, and just like walking away from it.
Okay, let me ask you this question. See what your thoughts are on this. So this is just me. Oh, look, it just magically went away. Oh, I think you stopped. Okay, awesome. I just discovered. So I do not do what was the breast exams when they mush your
Yes,
mammograms. I don't do those because I feel that they put radiation and everything into your body, and I'm very comfortable with myself. So I just a couple weeks ago discovered this really big lump, and there was like, oh my gosh. So I feel for me that it is energetic. So I'm working on disassembling it, putting castor oil patch on there versus, oh my gosh, what is this? I need to go get a mammogram and I'm going to have a biopsy. I mean, all of that is just, why am I going to fear, especially right now, the most like creative feminine part of me? And I think that's huge too, is for women, you need to fear your ovaries and hysterectomies and let's just take all that stuff out. So I have really decided a lot of these tests that you're supposed to get every year, I do not I do not do them now. Okay, just me. What do you think about that, especially knowing that you're in the cancer area?
I don't do them either.
Okay.
Before it was that I really didn't want to go because it's painful and this and that, but now I have scientific proof that there is no need. So it's not like before, it was a little bit intuition, a little bit this and that. I mean, I haven't done a pap smear in forever. Mm. And again, that is a thing. Oh, you're supposed to do it every so often. No. So again, each person has to go off of what they believe. If they think that is the right thing for them to do, then fine. I mean, I cannot prevent anybody from doing something. But once you learn, so again, we don't have time to go into what cancer is. Cancer is not what we were told. Doing the biopsy is the worst thing that can be done because they poke the little sac where all of the toxins are stored. They poke it, everything spreads rather than being in there. And so cancer or, the lump is pretty much kind of your body's way to solve the problem when it cannot detox fast enough. And what I again, I'm not the expert, but this is the conclusions I came to listening to other people and kind of even going off of what feels right to me.
Yeah.
Because by now I'm a little bit more in tune with myself, because at the beginning I was completely I didn't know where intuition was. I had to go and dig it out, but now it's good. So where there are some energetic blocks, this is where it forms.
Yeah.
So if you're able to get that energy moving around there, then it will pretty much start again. Your body will start detoxing, because body is, the way we were created, if nobody messed up with us, I am 1000% convinced that I'm listening to somebody that Methuselah is not a stretch. Who was Methuselah? The oldest human being.
Okay. How old?
Back hundreds.
Okay.
Several hundreds.
Yeah. And I believe that our physical body, and I loved the one podcast that I was watching on too, going, this change is going to happen in my lifetime. And I feel like over the next 5-6 years, tremendous. And that our bodies are meant to last for a long, long time. And we've been aging as a disease. That is just wow, when you think of that concept, that once we start changing our mindset around so much of this, and I'm in that field, that we are and we're all powerful beyond measure. And all of this through the Great Awakening is for us to come back and connect with that potential, and that we've been lied to think that we're small, to think that we need to live in fear, that our bodies are not from God and beautiful. And oh my gosh, I could just get on a stand right now and just express. Oh, so wonderful. Hey, can we move right into the Just Be practice? Thank you so much for talking about all of that. However, what do you want to do? Do you want to give more information? What would you like to help people with as a final aspect?
Just be practice.
As a scientist, I do want to share screen. I just have a few slides.
Yes.
I just have a few slides with, again, it's really about not being in fear, right? And why, and kind of just explain, just give me a second.
Okay.
And then, so where are we?
All right. Tell me if I need to hook up things again.
No. It's all okay. Good. There you go. Shit. So, this was a lot of information was coming to me just out of the blue. Mm-hmm. In 2020. When you're open to change and when you're open to unlearning and relearning, stuff just comes. You are just clicking and the correct things are showing up. So this is an early paper from Psychology Today that I found, anxiety versus coronavirus, how to tell the difference. So people that have never experienced anxiety were unaware that what they were experiencing was anxiety. And I was outside in my backyard at some point, because this is where I got a lot of my aha moments, when my hands are in the dirt, like weeding or whatever. I was really, so people were getting symptoms, this whole anxiety, right? What they would do, this was at the beginning, I'm talking about April, May, June 2020. Mm-hmm. They would drive themselves into urgent care. Sometimes they would drive themselves into urgent care because they were having anxiety but still able to get there. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they called the ambulance. Sometimes was the loved ones that were taking them in. All the tests, PCR tests at that point, were positive because they were cranking up those numbers. And pretty much this person that started with panic attack because of all of the numbers that were scrolling on CNN, MSNBC, all of those, whatever, mainstream media, the person that went in pretty much never came out. There was a lot of people, because they were then put on remdesivir and ventilators, and we hear about these stories.
Yeah.
And if there was if they were properly informed of the anxiety, how that was a problem, they would never do what they did, right? And the thing is, so this is where fear is the real virus comes from, and this was not written by me. Virology.com, an amazing website where Mike Stone goes into researching everything about all these different viruses. I put it in quote unquote because none of it is real. All these research papers are clearly not scientific, although they are peer reviewed, but there is really no science there. We all know they've been keeping us in fear for, I don't even know, this was on Mike's, one of his Substack articles. I don't even know what these dates are, but there was SARS, the first one. Then there is always some sort of bird flu.
Okay. These are the covers of Time magazine.
Sorry, yes, covers of Time magazine. And over the years, there is always something. They're always showing H1N1 and then masks and this and that. And I say fear-based propaganda through mainstream media, of course, not only, as I mentioned before, also a lot of alternative media is doing a lot of fear. And another fear that we need to include, so it's not just a fear of viruses and pathogenic bacteria, it's the whole nuclear arms situation. We won't go into that, but once you start digging into nukes, that's a whole other story.
And also, let me mention, in terms of the covers of Time magazines, you can also go back and see global warming, global cooling, how all that Mother Earth, our Mother Earth, is not going to be able to sustain herself, which to me is the biggest lie. She is so strong. Not to say that there haven't been really horrible things that are done to her, but she is magnificent. So she's not going to go away.
Exactly. So one thing that I want to point out is CDC themselves. They published a paper in July 2021 where they actually, so this is underlying medical conditions and severe illness among 540,000 adults hospitalized with COVID-19. This was the study was on patients between March 2020 and March 2021. Word fear was found 12 times in this paper. And the interesting thing is anxiety and fear-related disorders are the second strongest risk factor for death. So people were not dying because of a virus. They were dying because of anxiety and fear. And the first one is obesity. So they published it. There are scientists that are still unwilling to go back and say, wait a minute, we've been duped. We were wearing masks. We got vaccines because of fear being pushed. They're unwilling to do it because, as I said earlier, once you start unraveling one little thing, the whole thing falls down. And many people are not ready. They're just not ready to do it.
Yeah.
This is the amazing consciousness map. That's from Power versus Force book. I never read the book, but I always bring up this.
Yeah, I love this too.
Because it tells me everything I need to know. So you have the low vibration, where one of the main things in the low vibration area is fear. And then you go over courage. So shame, guilt going up. Shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, stress, anger, pride, courage. I call courage the turning point. I don't know if he explains it in the book. One of these days I'll have to read the book. But my big thing is fear or courage. So once you find the courage, you pretty much then go neutrality, willingness, acceptance, and then love, and then you go higher. Joy, peace, and enlightenment.
Okay, and I'm going to interrupt real quick. So, Sir David Hawkins, his map on consciousness, and from my belief that everything is energy, these are like the energy levels of these different, like shame has, to me, an energy level of 20, and then enlightenment at the top as an energy level or an expansion of 700 plus. So, yeah, I use this with a lot of my clients too, just to show the same thing. If you're in fear, you are vibrating at this lower level. The more you increase your heart and just your belief and your intuition, it just all rises. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you for explaining, because there you go. I'm not good at really explaining it. And then shame and guilt are down there. And
Yeah, the lowest.
a lot of people are stuck in shame and guilt. So I also had to, because I was stuck in, I mean, I've done some stuff that I'm not proud of. You know what I mean? Like when I was younger, and I was kind of ashamed, but I'm like, okay, you know, we do stupid things, but then we need to move on. I mean, if we want to rise and ascend, or I don't know, like be open to what's going on, we just need to, you know, just move and
to learn from it versus being ashamed by it.
Exactly.
What happened? Why did you do that? Grow from it. Use it as a way to expand.
Yeah. So just this was, I mean, as I said, stuff was happening to me. Somebody goes, Jerneja, you were ready. Like I was pushing back this. I see it as a big, big, big suitcase waiting for me, was dumped on me in April 2020. I was pushing it back for years. Pushing it back, I was unwilling to look. So once I looked, things started happening. So I came across a friend of mine the year before, and I contacted him. He's a Buddhist. I contacted him, and at some point he goes, I was explaining to him the whole PCR thing. You know, they're kind of keeping us in fear because of the PCR, and I know everything about it. And he goes, you need to promise you will never be in fear. Like in fear for your life, and I promised. And every time I had, at the beginning especially, I had to remind myself when I was falling in, I'm like, but I promised him I will never be in fear. Pluck, get back up. I mean, it was not easy. Sometimes it was not easy, but I'm like, the guy that I respect, I promised him. So I'm like, I'm not breaking that promise. And another person, again, came out of nowhere on Facebook, contacted me. We talked for 2 hours. He goes, he was explaining to me, he explained to me Lush. And I was like, what the heck is that? The negative energy that's kind of being harvested, like however people call it. I mean, he was explaining stuff to me that was completely, I heard it for the first time. And I was not calling him crazy. I was taking notes. I was taking notes. I was like, I still have those notes. And he just said, observe and don't absorb. Just see it as we are on the strings and somebody is pulling them now, whoever. Just observe and don't absorb. And right now, this is coming in very handy, because whatever's going on in politics in the US with Trump, like bombing Iran, that was one thing that everybody was jumping, and this and that. And now we have the Epstein list is not coming out. Everybody's jumping.
And
I'm just sitting here and I'm like, wow.
Yep.
Wow.
I think it's important to watch the show and to know what's going on, and the same thing, to be cool and know. Also, I've heard with the bombing, there's a lot of underground tunnels that are going on, and knowing so much of the children, and there's so much more to this, and other, I don't know if you're there yet, other galactics and other galaxies. I mean, it's not just Earth as well. It is so expansive. And that's what this great awakening is just to awaken, to blow your mind away from everything you've been brought up to believe that so much of it is not true.
I went from being a scientist stuck in the material world, the one embracing matter doesn't matter in 3-4 years. I mean, I went through the whole thing. I mean, once you go down, atoms are not what we were told. Atoms are not these things composed of neutrons, protons, electrons. No, there is no such thing. I mean, you go down you go down and you realize it's all energy. So people that are still clinging to anything that's like Western medicine because it's alternative, why plants work, like herbal medicine, why that works? Why? Not because that plant contains quercetin or whatever, some chemical. No, that plant is a certain frequency. Full stop. That's it. Nothing to do with the plant contains vitamin C, the plant contains whatever. No, this plant is that frequency. You need that frequency right now. It's going to help you. I mean, so many people are still not there.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get there. But with my ability, like as a scientist, I was able to go back and look. There is no proof of this. There is no proof of this, like through my, whatever I believed was real. Like, as I said, DNA and viruses. So once you go down, and then I didn't come up with the whole atoms are not a thing. I listened to a physics person. I mean, he has PhD in physics. He might be a good person for he's a young guy that's very, very awake and aware. So when you listen to a physicist saying it, and then I go and research for myself, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess he's right. So it's interesting. And I'm like, I'm all about the Galactic Federation and whatever. So
there you go. So we could have talked about that, but yeah.
I was brought up to speed. So I came across Out of Shadows in May.
That was a big one for me. That was my first big one.
And then The Fall of the Cabal, the 10.
That's exactly what happened to me. Those two things, same thing. They just, once I opened my mind, they just kind of fell in my lap from people.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much. And then I didn't push them away because some people are like, they've watched and then, no, I'm like, okay, so what does it mean? Mm-hmm. What does it mean? So how does this world really works? So why, again, then it went back, why are there so many homeless in Columbus that I was supposed to feed? It's not capitalism that's the problem. There are other things that are the problem. Mm-hmm. So then you just start undoing, and a lot of stuff I cannot even express. I mean, I don't have words, but I know what I know, and I know that it feels right when I'm listening to you. Like I listened to when you were doing your podcast alone. I'm like, yeah. I mean, I don't remember now what you were saying, but
and that was a while back. Thank you.
This sounds right. Yeah. I agree. So that's how I go with a lot of people. I mean, I just hear them and I'm like, yeah, this agrees with me. And then when it's something that doesn't, I'm like, oh, let me see. Is my thing that's still a little bit off, or maybe I'm trying to understand where to go, keep my stuff or maybe embrace the new things.
Right. And it's so good to be flexible because I have certain things, but I'm always open to my mind being changed. One last question I want to ask you, Jerneja. Why do you think the PCR test was chosen?
The PCR test is so easy to manipulate.
Okay.
It's so easy to manipulate. I mean, it's like when you ask, I always say, when you ask my students, let's do, have you done PCR before? Yes, but as soon as they start doing it, they have a positive PCR in a tube where there is supposed to be no template, no DNA, no nothing. And they have it positive because something flew in, something who knows what. So it's the easiest thing to manipulate. And as I said, you turn up those cycles to 45, 50, you will get a little signal at, 43, which in research, as I said, we would be tossing out. We wouldn't even look at it. But, it was positive. It's positive. So it's so easy to manipulate.
Okay.
So the same happened with HIV. This is where it actually started. The use of PCR started with HIV/AIDS. That's a whole other topic, but it's...
And that's all a lie too. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Girl, so great to have you on to hear. And I really, I've never heard talking about Melania as well. That's a cool thing that you express from your perspective. I love that. Thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for being stubborn, for using your voice. I mean, it's just, not only it just feels good, it feels good to live in the truth, your own truth. And, also desiring, it would be great if you lived in your own truth and come along. But if you don't, that's okay, because I feel really good where I am. And and to end the show, I have such gratitude being able to meet people like you and to hear your story and your perspective. It just jazzes me up. All right, so we're going to head out. This show, again, we pre-record, so it'll be live in 2 weeks. So I'm excited about that. And we got some everybody who comes on the show is just fantastic. So I'm just jazzed up. And my gut says just to keep doing this every week. So I'll just keep doing it. Jerneja, thank you so much for your heart and for just sharing your voice. Loved it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Eden.
Okay. All right. Bye, y'all. See y'all next time. Y'all, find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Truth Social, as well as Rumble, BitChute, YouTube, plus a plethora of other audio directories like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So subscribe, do it all. See ya.